Hi YouTube, I guess you could consider this part 2 if you've already watched my review on the SIG M400. This trigger isn't included with this rifle, but I wanted to give it its own review and kind of go into some details with you. So this is the Timney 3lb solid trigger. I say solid because they also have a skeletonized one that has some little holes in it like a skeletonized 1911 trigger would. But this is a very good trigger, and so now I guess I'll go into the features. We have a 3-pound crisp brake with a very short reset. So I'll give you an idea of it right here. If you watch, no take up at all. Oh, whoops, safety should be off. And brake. And then your reset, very, very short. So this is a huge improvement over a factory trigger. And that's that's probably the first thing, and in my opinion, probably the most important thing in regards to being able to shoot an AR well yourself. Because when you have a lighter trigger, a crisper trigger, it doesn't feel like you're dragging a stick through gravel. When it's a lot smoother, it's a lot easier for you to really get in the weapon and manipulate this trigger and keep your sights on target as you're doing it. Because if you shot handguns before, you know one of the most important aspects to accuracy is trigger manipulation while keeping your sights on target. So when you add a good trigger, it really can transform the way a rifle feels. This one has an angled shape. It may be better for gloved hands. I can't really see a difference, but as you know, most other AR triggers have more of a looping effect. This one's kind of flat, so even whenever it's forward, you can see it's still just kind of flat. It's a little farther back. Personal preference, really. I think if you got the skeletonized one, it might be a little bit farther forward, but I don't know. Feels about the same to me. I haven't done a ton of AR shooting. I haven't done a ton of AR shooting with gloved hands, so I guess take my opinion for what it's worth, but that's the shape. It comes assembled as a trigger group. It is very solid, but installation is a bit difficult, and I'll give you guys an idea of that right now and kind of talk my way through it and show you what I'm talking about. So let me remove everything here. All right, we'll just stick it open. Okay, so there you can see the Timney trigger group, and then you got your disconnector, your hammer, and then it has these two small set screws. You can see them right in front of my hand right there. See those two small set screws on the edge? That's actually what holds this thing in place, are those two little small screws. So you put the pins through the edge, and then you put one small set screw on the bottom to tighten up the trigger group against those pins, and then you put two set screws in the top of those to hold those first two set screws in. And it is a little tricky because you have to move those springs out of the way. You can see the edges of the spring right there along the edge kind of covers up those holes where the set screws go in. So installation is a little bit tricky. I will give it that. You're probably going to need like a small pair of needle nose pliers, really small, or a pocket knife, or just something that you can use to push those springs out of the way to actually get that set screw in there. So it is a little tricky. And I don't remember if those came with Loctite on them or not. I think they may have had a dab on them, but they say that you can put a little blue Loctite on them also. So I'm not positive if this had it on there or not, but it hasn't moved at all, and those pins are in there tight, so that's good. In use, there's a rumor, or maybe it's fact, I haven't ever seen this happen, but rumor is that you can get potential light strikes on NATO ammo, which has harder primers. And they said that the fix for this is to get an AR-10 hammer and spring as a fix, but there hasn't been issues with this rifle. So the AR-10 hammer and spring, the AR-10 hammer has more of a hook back here than a flat part. It's supposed to add more mass, make it hit a little bit harder. And then the AR-10 spring goes in right down there in the bottom, so it's supposed to prevent light strikes. But I haven't seen that yet, so take that for what it's worth. Call Timney if you have a question about it. I'm sure they'll be happy to take care of you. I have a friend that's dealt with the company and says they're good. So how do I like this trigger in this setup? Well, I like two-stage triggers for rifle length AR, so it's 20 inches or over, but I like single-stage triggers for carbine length AR, so if it's 16 or under. So I think this is a great option for an AR carbine. You know, when you're talking AR carbine, really, that's, you know, kind of a closer defensive weapon. So it's a little bit closer. You know, you're going to be going in tight quarters, whatever. So you want so personally, I think that you want something that you can get really quick shots on target with. Not saying that a two-stage trigger doesn't have a short reset and short travel, and it is predictable, but this is also extremely predictable. It's very light, it's crisp, and the reset's really short. So That's my personal preference, because, you know, how do I like it? This is my personal preference. Your mileage may vary. You may like two-stage triggers and carbines. That's up to you. But I think this is a good option. How do I think about it overall? Well, it's a really good crisp trigger, and Timney has a great track record. So it's good. The price is competitive with some other options. I think a good Geisley trigger, you know, is around $200, a little over that. I think he got this one on Midway. It was around $150, $200. I'm not sure what they're listing it for now. Maybe I'll annotate it, but I think it's worth the money. I like how it comes assembled as one unit, and it makes it easy just for you to drop it in. It is a little tricky to get to those set screws, but I like how you can take it out as one solid piece instead of having to assemble it in there, you know, piece by piece with the springs and everything disconnected. So I like this setup. I like this Timney trigger, and I think it's good. If you have any other questions, just post in the comments. Thanks.